With just about 24 hours to go for US withdrawal from Afghanistan after 20 long years, Mullah Akhundzada, the head of Taliban, has surfaced in Kandahar. Taliban is in control of Kabul. But Islamic State Khorasan province fired multiple rockets at the Kabul airport this morning. Will the US be able to withdraw 4,000 troops, its citizens, staffers and others in under 24 hours from now? Will Turkey then take over air traffic control and associated airport operations in Kabul, or will airspace shut down for some time, if not longer? What happens next in Afghanistan? The Amirul Momineen, or the commander of the faithful of Taliban, Mullah Haibatullah Akhundzada, is in Kandahar. This announcement was made by Zabiullah Mujahid barely 24 hours before the US pullout of Afghanistan. Akhundzada took control of Taliban in 2016 after Mullah Akhtar Mansoor was killed in a US drone strike. The Taliban announcement comes when intelligence agencies speculated that Akhundzada was in Pakistan ISI's custody. He is likely to keep a keen eye on the next government formation in Kabul. The US now have under 24 hours to pull out over 4,000 troops and between 500 to 600 other American citizens and embassy staff. The US embassy staff continue to operate out of the Hamid Karzai International Airport. The US are expected to withdraw all their personnel, including the air traffic controllers, from the Hamid Karzai International Airport unless there is a last-minute agreement with Taliban. Western countries had sought an extension so that all citizens and some Afghan nationals who had worked with embassies and wanted to leave could be accommodated. However, after a string of terror strikes, including one that killed 13 US service personnel and more than 170 Afghans, and the rockets intercepted at the Kabul airport, Taliban have told Western countries to stick to the withdrawal plan. There is speculation that either Turkey or Qatar may help keeping the Hamid Karzai International Airport functional. No decision has been taken so far.
Şu anda bir defa Taliban hatta
In fact, the Taliban have made a request regarding the operations of the Kabul airport. Who was this request made to? To us. They say we'll ensure security and you can operate it. But we have not made a decision yet.
Şimdi biz bu konuda bile şu anda henüz verilmiş bir kararımız yok.
But for now, overflight restrictions will remain over Afghan airspace after US withdrawal in under 24 hours. Bureau Report, India Today. So will this man now take over Afghanistan, Mullah Abdul Ghani Baradar, or will it be Mullah Akhundzada? In a moment, we'll explain who these men are, what's the hierarchy of Taliban. But before that, I want to introduce Raj Chingappa, Group Editorial Director, Print, joining us on India Today. Raj, your take. What happens in 24 hours in Afghanistan and then beyond those 24 hours?
Well, Gaurav, for the first question, it's anybody's guess. Given the kind of tinderbox situation that is there, we have seen two US airstrikes. You could get a missile strike anytime. You could get a bomb blast. Hopefully, none of that will happen. And the US can continue its withdrawal with no more loss of life. And of course, the people of Kabul as well is not subjected to bomb attacks. So that's the first concern, that these things go off peacefully. And then, of course, comes the really hard part. So far, the Taliban has shown that it can overrun Afghanistan in a manner that few thought it could, and at the speed that surprised everybody, including India. But now comes the point of governance. Can they run this country? Sure, they've taken over the country, but can they run it? I think that's the big question.
Okay. Raj, stay with me for a moment. For the benefit of our viewers, I want to explain what Taliban's leadership will be like 24 hours from now. As US forces now withdraw from Afghanistan after 20 years, who will be completely in control? This is the Taliban leadership. Right on top is this man. His name is Haibatullah Akhundzada. Mullah Akhundzada is the Amirul Momineen, or the commander of the faithful. Right on top, he's currently in Kandahar, hails from Kandahar. Will he be the head of the government, or will he control from outside? That remains to be seen. He is from the Pashtun community, hails from Kandahar, is of the Nurzai tribe. Seen more as a religious preacher, a qazi, an interpreter of rules than a field commander. Of course, he has been in battle. But one man who will play an extremely important role is this man, Mullah Abdul Ghani Baradar, or Mullah Baradar. He heads the political wing. So right on top is Akhundzada, 3 deputies. The political wing is headed by Mullah Baradar, a Pashtun, Durrani, Sadozai tribe. He spent 8 years in a Pakistani prison. But the most powerful military man, someone who's considered extremely close to Pakistan, is Sirajuddin Haqqani, heading the Haqqani network. Now, this is where Pakistan's ISI will become extremely crucial in the days ahead. Known as the sword arm of the Taliban, heads the Haqqani network, a Pashtun, spent his childhood in Pakistan, Zardan tribe. Now, Haqqani network is seen as somebody who operates at the behest of Pakistan's ISI. Now, what also is extremely crucial at this point of time is that it's the Haqqani network that's in charge of security of Kabul and areas around. Will there be fissures? Will there be fissures, for example, with Mullah Yaqub? Mullah Yaqub's father is the founder, or was the founder of the Taliban, Mullah Omar. Mullah Omar, his sister is Mullah Baradar's wife. So they're also related. Now, Mullah Yaqub is very young. He's considered the future leader of the Taliban, but he was in his 30s, and that is why he said, let somebody else head the organization while I gain military experience. So he's the military commander. He's been a part of various operations against the West, but then he says he'll wait till he takes over the organization. Now, he's in charge not just of the military wing, one part, but also ideology and religious affairs. So while these are the faces, there are of course others, but what's extremely crucial is this organization called the Rahbaris, or the Shuras. Now, why does this become extremely important? The Rahbari Shura is a group of leaders of the Taliban who fought against the Soviets. Now they sit back in a place called Quetta in Pakistan, and that is why they're also known as the Quetta Shura. Amongst the Shuras, they are the most influential and the most powerful. Why are they influential and powerful? Because they control the hierarchy, the leadership on important issues. Even Mullah Akhundzada has to consult the Shuras. Promotion of Taliban commanders, who will be appointed where, how will a certain law will be interpreted. All of that is done by the Quetta Shura. Of course, there are others. There's a Shura in Peshawar. There's one in Miram Shah. Equally important, but first amongst equals, amongst these council of Taliban or the Shuras, is the Quetta Shura. So this is how this organization is likely to function in the times ahead. So as of now, all these different wings fought united. Their aim was to reach Kabul. Raj, now that they've reached Kabul, will the Taliban work as one entity, or can there be fissures? For example, the Haqqani network, will they end up towing Pakistan's line? Will this anger Mullah Akhundzada, or will it anger Mullah Baradar, seen more as somebody from Doha, somebody who spent 8 years in Pakistani prison, may not just be very close to Pakistan's ISI?
Gaurav, in the next few days, you will see supreme jockeying for power. Clearly, the Taliban is not a monolithic organization. Ever since they lost power in 2001, it took them a while to regroup. When they regrouped, they had a whole lot of clashes. You've mentioned some of that. The Haqqani group, the fighting arm of the Taliban, almost acts independent of much of the groups, has emerged powerful and has very close links with the ISI. Baradar, on the other hand, who is likely to emerge as the leader of the council, the political leader, the spiritual and, the supreme leader of the faithful will be Akhundzada, who possibly will stay back in Kandahar, as did Mullah Omar, the first emir of the Talibs. So you would expect a lot more action happening once the council has happened, and then we will understand who's really won. Of course, the thing that India will watch for is how much is this council tilted towards Pakistan, and the effect that they will continue to control them. There are inherent tensions. Let's not forget. Let's not think, as I said, it's a monolithic. The organization that's there. Baradar was in jail in Pakistan for almost 10 years, from 2010 to 2018. He was seen to be close to Karzai and was seen to be a moderate, which upset the ISI, and they put him in jail. And under pressure from the US, he was released. He has clearly emerged as a political leader, a consensus leader. He's also, as you mentioned, apart from being the co-founder, related to Mullah Omar, and therefore has been able to handle the hardliners and bring them together. It is to be seen how that council is. The second big thing that they will have to look at, and that is what the world will look at, and why I think that they would try and bring some inclusion, is because today the Taliban wants inclusion. Without that, they're in deep trouble, and they want legitimacy.
Okay.
So if you look at what they're trying to do, is that they will try and form a council that in some senses many countries would like to recognize, particularly those that supported them. If you recall, in the first avatar of theirs in 1996 to 2001, only 3 countries recognized them: Pakistan, UAE, and Saudi Arabia. Today, they need far greater legitimization. And apart from China, Russia, and Pakistan, and some of the other supporters, like possibly Turkey, they would want a wider recognition. And why do they want
funds.
that? Can I just finish?
Of course. Go on, sir.
Why do they want that? Today, they have to run the country, and that means money. They need finances, and the US has frozen their reserves, I think close to $9 billion. The Europeans, that was planning to pump about $3 billion in the next 4 years, has withheld that. And the special drawing rights that they had from the IMF has also been held back at about $400 million.
Okay.
Which means that the government is broken. Already you've seen today, earlier on our television, there were scenes of people coming out about price rise.
In fact, we will play that out in a moment.
All the issues that a new country would face when they run.
Oh, absolutely. And in midst of all of this is where this India Today cover becomes extremely interesting. Taliban has made an outreach towards India. Senior Taliban commander Sher Abbas Stanikzai, somebody incidentally who was trained at the Indian Military Academy at Dehradun, he has said that Taliban 2.0 would want to maintain trade ties with India. Now, this comes at a time where Taliban spokesperson has also said that the country expects or would want India to carry on with the reconstruction and development projects in Afghanistan.
As the Taliban government takes shape in Afghanistan, a senior member of the Taliban leadership, Sher Mohammad Abbas Stanikzai, has said that the group wants to maintain trade, economic and political relations with India. Stanikzai, widely tipped as Afghanistan's next foreign minister, asked India to retain a diplomatic presence in the war-devastated country. The Taliban leader also said air trade route between India and Afghanistan needs to be kept open. He was referring to the air corridor between India and Afghanistan that was established to boost trade between the two countries in view of Pakistan's denial to allow transit access. Stanikzai was part of a group of foreign cadets who received training at the prestigious Indian Military Academy in Dehradun in the early 1980s. He also described India as an important country in the region.
ما می‌خوایم که همکاری‌های سالمشان دوام بکنه، در راسته دیپلماتیک با هم روابط حسنه داشته باشیم. همچنان اگر نیاز میشه سفیرای ما هم در تمام کشورها خواهد بود و سفرای کشورهای دیگر هم در افغانستان فعلا هم هستند. فضای اطمینانی برشان مساعد شده.
This isn't the first time the Taliban have reached out to India. Soon after the fall of Kabul, Taliban spokesperson had said that India can complete its reconstruction and infrastructure projects, even going to the extent of calling Kashmir a bilateral issue between India and Pakistan. India has been a key stakeholder in Afghanistan and has invested nearly $3 billion in carrying out around 500 projects across the country. For now, India has been adopting a wait-and-watch policy.
Currently, there is a lack of clarity, or no clarity about any entity forming a government in Kabul. We of course continue to monitor the situation very carefully. This is an evolving situation, and I think for the moment that's all I have to say about this element.
India, though, hasn't forgotten Taliban terror. In 1999, the Taliban government allowed the hijackers of an Indian Airlines flight from Kathmandu, Nepal, to escape. Taliban permitted Masood Azhar to travel to Pakistan, where he founded Jaish-e-Mohammed, an organization responsible for a spate of high-profile attacks across India. Does India have a choice of engaging with Taliban now? Bureau Report, India Today.
And that is where this India Today magazine becomes extremely important. You must read this. Rachingappa, what should India do? How should India deal with Taliban? Does engagement give India better leverage than boycott?
Gaurav, there's a bit of a static that's there. If you can just have that cleaned up. But can you hear me?
I can hear you. Strength 5, loud and clear, sir.
All right. Okay. Now, when it comes to India, I think as the little clip that was played earlier, we have memories of Kandahar. We have memories of 2008, the bomb attack on our embassy, which saw 58 people dead and 2 of our senior Indian officials go. So I think the first thing that is, there's a lack of trust between us. We need that trust to be built. Whatever Stanigzai says, those are words. We need that indeed. Let's not forget we have a bad hand at the moment. Pakistan has the upper hand after 2 decades where democratic government ran Afghanistan. We were able to make great inroads. We had leverage. We had development funds coming in close to $3 billion that had come in the last 2 decades. And we had shown that we could really do projects that matter for Afghanistan, whether it was the Salman Dam, whether it was the parliament, whether it was the clinics and everything else. India has shown goodwill in that. We did very little arms supply, and therefore the Taliban is aware of that. Plus, let's not forget, though we have a bad hand at the moment, we are at the UN Security Council, currently chairman, which we'll have to give up next month, but we will be there for the next 2 years. We're also chairman of the UN Sanctions Committee. And as mentioned earlier, Taliban is desperate for funds. So they would require some sort of, I mean, it's not that we are the ones determining it, yes, but it would be good to have someone in the Security Council for them that believes in them. I think India needs to proceed cautiously. It must engage with the Taliban. And clearly, it seems that we have, because you cannot have a senior person like Stanigzai make the kind of statement he did yesterday, where he outlined all the concerns that we had and addressed them, which was, 1, don't come into Jammu and Kashmir. So he said it's a bilateral issue. 2, be inclusive. Minorities, protect them. That also he seems to have sort of indicated, we are concerned about the way they are running. Okay. And 3, he said, development aid, we would require India's thing. So all the right noises were there. Okay. We need to proceed, continue to keep contacts at whatever level that we have. Opening the embassy is a card that we need to work out when we should do it. Okay. Whether we recognize them as a legitimate government, again, we need to, they have to do all the heavy lifting to show that they are, that they will not unleash all this alphabetical soup of terror groups that they seem to have under their wing. I call it the Taliban guest house, where you have, the ETAM, which is inimical to China. You have the Uzbeks. You have the Jaish-e-Mohammed and the LET, and both, I think the Jaish-e-Mohammed leadership went there.
Since you mentioned them, Raj, let's take a look at what's happening on ground. So is this a sign of times to come? One of Osama bin Laden's key lieutenants, Aminul Haq. Take a look at these images on your television screen. This, of course, is a video that's gone viral online. Now, he is from Nangarhar. He's returned to Afghanistan. So, Aminul Haq was the security officer of Osama bin Laden in the Tora Bora mountains. Osama bin Laden, one of the world's most wanted terrorists, eliminated where? At Abbottabad, outside Pakistan Military Academy, Kabul. And who is returning? Aminul Haq is returning to Afghanistan. Leading, as Rachingappa calls it, is this the guest house of assorted terrorists, whether it's the East Turkestan Islamic Movement or for others like Lashkar-e-Taiba and Jaish-e-Mohammed, and now Aminul Haq back, or as some say, if Pakistan is terror central, is Afghanistan becoming jihad central? Now let me also tell you what else is happening on ground. Taliban promised free press. I'll show you reality on ground. It's very different. A video of a television news anchor flanked by gun-toting Taliban fighters is now going viral. Now, this video shows a visibly frightened host of a political debate reading a statement given by the Taliban as he interviews a Taliban commander. Journalists, of course, have been in the line of fire in Kabul ever since Kabul fell to Taliban. Remember that Tolo woman news anchor? She made international headlines for interviewing the Taliban spokesperson wearing an abaya. She too is known to have fled the country.
A new studio with armed men. A visibly terrified news presenter. This is not a scene from a movie. Welcome to the new era of media in Afghanistan. This is how TV interviews are now being done in Afghanistan. The visuals on your screen show a peace studio in Afghanistan hosting a program with armed Taliban fighters lingering behind. A Taliban official was invited to a television debate, and guess what he brought along? His armed guards. Right inside the news studio. The anchor was forced to praise the Taliban as armed fighters menacingly stood behind him in the studio. The anxious anchor starts the program saying Islamic Emirate wants the public to cooperate with it and no one needs to be afraid. Reports of journalists being attacked have started emerging since the Taliban took over Afghanistan. A few days back, an Afghan reporter working with Tolo News and a camera person were brutally thrashed by the Taliban in Kabul while they were reporting in the city. Beheshta Argand, a woman who interviewed the Taliban spokesperson and made headlines, has fled Afghanistan. The Taliban has pledged press freedom and has said that journalists in Afghanistan will not be threatened. But nobody is taking their word for it. The reality on the ground is different. Majority of Afghan journalists have either gone underground or have been evacuated. Media houses and journalists are under a major threat to promote the Taliban narrative or self-censorship for their survival. So if an anchor shoots off his mouth, he will be the news for sure. Bureau Report, India Today.
And coming up on the other side, Udyan Mukherjee on money, monetization and more. Business Today on the other side of a quick break. Stay with us.